VA home loans. With me, I have Nick Parent, a mortgage broker here in the state of Vermont.
To get designated as an MRP, which is a military relocation professional. Just having those people in place that have done it before helps guide them through the buying a home better. Any given, payment, it might save them a couple $100s more by utilizing that product.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Kitchen Spoons and Combat Boots. This episode, we're going to be talking about VA home loans. With me, I have Nick Parent, who is a mortgage broker here in the state of Vermont. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Thank you for coming. I'm glad you found the place. It's a little tricky around here.
Yeah, a couple of different ways to get here, but I appreciate you welcoming me at the door. So
all roads lead to family programs. Yep. So we're doing this episode about Kitchen Spoons and Combat Boots. We have a lot of recordings going on with different people, and we're just really sharing information. And what we want to do is we just want to make sure that we can push out this product to our service members and families, and we can really make it make sense for them. So what experience do you have pushing out VA home loans, working with VA home loans? We had spoken before that we hit the record button about you have a special qualification. Tell me about that.
I don't have a special qualification, but are you talking about the realtor?
Yes,
MRP?
yes.
So a lot of real estate agents, or some that I work with, they took it upon themselves to get designated as an MRP, which is a military relocation professional. So what that does is just make them kind of an expert on how to navigate their clients and their veteran clients through the VA program. And knowing the product, I think, just sets up the client, and when they're negotiating, kind of how to sell the program to make it a positive thing, because that's really what it is at the end of the day.
So do you think it would be in a service member's best interest to make sure they check and see if their realtor is MRP certified? Is that what it would be called?
Yes, that would be a benefit. I'm not sure how many there are in the state of Vermont. I think there's maybe a half a dozen to a dozen. With that being said, there's a lot of good agents that are in the state that can definitely help out a veteran as well. But I do think it's beneficial if they've had some experience, helping veterans before, or very often I'm being called on by my real estate partners to kind of get educated about the program, which is good. So just having those people in place that have done it before or know helps guide them through the buying a home better.
Yeah, and what are things that you want to share today about the VA home loan process that you think is going to be beneficial for people listening?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind sharing a few myths that are out there about the VA program. The VA program is a great benefit to our military folks and veterans. It often, for many of them, puts them in the best financial position because often the rate usually is about a half a point lower than the conventional mortgage that's out there. So on any given payment, it might save them a couple $100s more by utilizing that product. I think on the negative side, people that don't know the VA program, or maybe on the bigger picture, I think, unfortunately, VA gets put in the same bag as an FHA loan or other government products. And VA is not like FHA at all. It's truly a good benefit to the veteran to use that. So the main thing is it's a good product. I don't think it's any harder to get a VA loan if you know the nuances of VA and how to navigate your client through that.
Right.
So depending on the property, there's some uniqueness of the home that we have to look at. And then as well, we talked about if it's a condo association, there's just different guidelines that VA requires, and knowing those rules is going to, help that client be successful in closing on that house.
Yeah, I know that with military experience and you wanting to use that loan, it sounds like making sure that you're talking to an MRP is a good start.
Yep.
And then, what are people who qualify for a VA home loan?
How are they eligible? Or,
yeah.
Yep. So there's different levels. So the main thing that a veteran can do, or someone who thinks they're eligible, often what they're going to start with is get a COE, which is a certificate of eligibility.
Right.
Very often, any bank or loan officer should be able to pull that within a few minutes with some basic information. Then if not, we have to do further analysis, and we might need the DD 214 form. But knowing that from that certificate of eligibility, that's going to tell us how much they might be qualified as far as eligibility. And also within there, it'll also show if they have any disability fee or disability percentage with the VA. And that's important because the most common thing to use for a VA program, you could do 0% down. And it also helps you avoid the mortgage insurance, which is an extra fee in that monthly payment. So with the VA loan, they don't have any PMI or mortgage insurance, but they do have what's called a reservation fee, which is basically VA's way of insuring the loan behind the scenes. And if they have, I believe, I think 10% or more disability, they're allowed to waive that additional VA fee that goes into the loan amount.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And all you need is a certificate of eligibility or DD-214?
To find out if you're eligible, yes. One of the myths here, and I've had this before with veterans, is that just because they have the certificate of eligibility or they know they're eligible for the program, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're eligible to get the mortgage. Right. So they still have to be underwritten and approved and qualified to get the mortgage. But definitely the certificate of eligibility is going to tell us, what their maximum that they could borrow potentially. And then again, see if they're eligible for the VA loan.
And they still have to have a good credit score.
Good credit. I don't know in the VA handbook if there is any minimum required credit score, but I do know most banks out there usually require either a 580 or 620 credit score.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I know the VA home loan has been really enticing for most because that 0% down. Yep. And then, you can almost work any sort of deal, covering closing costs and stuff like that. The VAs will work with you to wrap anything into your VA home loan.
Correct.
I've used it a few times.
Yep. It's a good product. That's actually one of my myths too, not to interrupt, but the closing cost can get rolled in. You can negotiate it from the seller. And then there's another myth that I've heard from sellers that the seller has to pay the closing cost of the veteran, which isn't true.
Right, that's not.
So that's an often one that, we're not going to take that loan option because we don't want to cover their closing cost. And like you said, there's different ways. Either the veteran can pay it out of their pocket or you can negotiate it into the purchase price as well.
Interesting. And I wonder if that deters people from accepting offers from somebody who's put an offer on a house with a VA home loan, because you can see that in the offer.
You can. And the other thing they look at, which is interesting from my point of view as the loan officer, very often they'll look at what's called the loan to value, which is their down payment. And one of the biggest benefits, I just did a veteran's loan at $1.5 million, 100%, 0% down, so 100% financing, which is pretty special. But the down payment of a client sometimes doesn't dictate the caliber of the client.
Right.
So sometimes someone is doing 50% down. That might be the only way they're qualified. And to the seller, they're taking that as a strong borrower because they're doing so much money down. Where behind the scenes, I might be sweating to try to get their mortgage done. A lot of times, a lot of veterans that I work, usually they know what they're doing, they're disciplined, they get you their documents quickly, they're well qualified. And so just because they're doing no money down has no relevance on if they're qualified or not. They're just using their benefits that they've earned the right to use.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes fast.
Yeah. Another myth out there is that you can only use a VA loan once.
Right.
So you said you've got a few different loans.
I've used it. I've used the VA home loan, but I've never had more than one going at a time.
Yeah.
That was the deal. Is I had to make sure that it was closed completely before I could open up a new one.
Yeah.
So.
So there are ways. I've had veterans where they've actually had two VA loans, and again, there's different guidelines within the VA guideline, the booklet, the HUD booklet we call it. But there are ways that you can get multiple VA loans depending on your entitlement. So again, it goes back to that certificate of eligibility. Will tell you how much you can do. And then the common one is usually when someone sells a home. When they sell that, they get their entitlement percentage back, and then you're able to keep using your VA loan again.
Right.
which is, again, another big benefit.
Yeah, that was the big case. It was purchase new home before you can, do your VA home loan in the new one. The current one that you're in had to sell and you had to close out completely. Okay, that one's closed. Now we can go into opening the new one.
Yeah.
So I think they scheduled like same day too.
I was going to say it's pretty seamless. So usually if you're selling in the morning, VA will give us that percentage back quickly and then you can close the next day. We just, or that same day even. Yeah. We just have to show that the first one is closed prior to purchasing the second one in that case.
Yeah. How many people come to you that are veterans would you say use the home loan? Would you say like 100% of people that you see who are veterans are always using that VA home loan?
I would say when I'm talking to a client, we're usually going through different programs that may make sense for them.
Right.
When they say they're a veteran or have that honor of using this program, 9 times out of 10, it's usually the better program for the consumer, for the veteran. And again, it goes back to usually the rate's better and their terms are going to be slightly better. But there's some cases where clients want to do 50% down. They might have a VA funding fee, that percentage. We'll compare apples to apples to see if it makes sense or not to use it. So it's really just going through the different products that are out there. But typically, the VA loan is usually the best product for the veteran.
Right. And you said shop around.
Shop around, yeah. I got one more myth. Can I chat about that one more myth?
Send it.
The other big thing that VA, I think, gets a bad rap on is that and we talked about it a little bit off camera here, but a VA has to have an appraisal, just like any other transaction. And I think the trickiest part of a VA appraisal that I can see or that comes up is VA doesn't like any peeling paint. Any government program, FHA, VA, they all follow the lead paint laws from the 70s. So that's a big one still for VA. Some of these guidelines were set years ago and they're still there. But if there's any peeling paint, that's usually a pretty common and hopefully a minor fix that can get resolved pretty quickly.
Right.
Other than that, a VA appraisal is pretty much exactly the same as any other appraisal for any other program. So they're going to look at the soundness of the home. Is it structurally standing? And then they're really comparing it to other homes that have sold in the market. So there's really not a huge distinction on a VA appraisal, but often the pushback I get from the public or other agents that may not know this program too well is they think the appraiser is going to go out there and just scrutinize the property and kill their deal.
Right.
Now, if the home is that bad, that's going to be an issue for any program. It has nothing to do with VA. So VA appraisals are not that bad, and I don't think they're even, other than the paint, they're really not that much different than any other appraisal that's out there.
Yeah, when in reality, they're probably just going to look at the market, and it's probably going to appraise for what the market says it's going to appraise for. I mean, unless it really has issues.
Correct. Yep.
Like big issues.
Yeah.
And then VA home loans don't. Yeah, they're pretty stringent. We were saying.
Yep.
Yeah. No. Oof, it's a lot.
Yeah. And you had said, Dan, the shopping around. So, I think any good loan officer that I talk to out there, it's a hot button topic for us with veterans or any consumer that gets misled. But very often I see it more commonly with the VA product. I will tell any person out there, anytime a bank is leading with some catchphrase or we're there for the veteran, there's even some banks that have veteran in their name. And I've seen it. The veterans think that they're there for them. They can trust them and that they're being protected by this bank. And very often when we look under the hood, those banks that are kind of trying to pull in the veterans very often have rates that are half a point to a point higher, higher fees. And again, they're backing themselves that they're there for the veteran. And when we look at the estimates, from my point of view, it's gouging the veteran.
Yeah.
They're just taking advantage of the veteran.
And that's so hard to protect yourself as a home buyer and a veteran.
Yeah.
How can you tell your broker, your real estate agent, hey, this looks a little funny. I feel like I'm being worked because these rates are higher. But yes, I'm using my VA home loan. I see all the benefits here. But why is the baseline over here outside of the loan higher? Yeah. That's where they get you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the biggest thing, and I even tell clients to shop me because I have no problem with it.
Right.
Get 2 or 3 estimates. Ask around. Ask your realtor if you trust them. Hey, who do you like to work with? Because usually an agent that's been around for a while has trusted partners that they've gone through, they've worked with them for years, and they know they're taking care of the client. So the main thing, any program, to shop around, get several estimates, and any good bank should be able to put what they're saying on paper to show you what it's going to cost.
And you want to build your reputation. You want to make yourself look good. You don't want to, line up one of your buyers with a VA home loan and then, it falls through and then you want to make sure you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So, it's really important to make sure that you're kind of doing the best thing for the veteran.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when a veteran is shopping for a home, and they want to use their VA home loan, I guess, how do they start that process?
So the best way to start the process, again, is, usually where people like to start is with the realtor. It's more fun to look at homes. I get it. It's more exciting.
No.
But if someone's starting to get into home ownership, the best thing is to talk to a bank, talk to your local broker. In Vermont, I think if you're a Vermont bank, usually there's more of a greater sense to that we're going to have to give back to our community, or that we're responsible for the community that we work in. So I always recommend someone start local. And again, if they get a recommendation, that's always a great way to start. But again, finding out if you're eligible for a VA is just starting a conversation like this. When I'm training new loan officers, they always are nervous when they first start talking to a consumer. And I think the best thing you do to get to know someone is, hey, where are you at with your situation? Because until you tell me what you're looking for, I don't really know how to guide you.
Right.
And everyone's situation is different. So whenever I have a new client, I'm very low pressure. Always happy to be a resource. Tell me where you're at and what you're looking to do. And very often the client's situation is going to dictate what they're qualified for. And love working with veterans. When they tell me they're a veteran, first thing we usually do is get that certificate of eligibility, make sure they're qualified. Because in some cases they may think they are.
Right.
They might have a friend that was, so they think they were. But getting that flushed out, and then we're just really looking at the numbers. And at the end of the day, the mortgage is all about comfort with that monthly payment, and then how much does it really cost. So I try to boil it down to being that simple. So we'll start talking about budgets and what's your monthly payment. And very often they may be qualified for a lot higher, but it's all about what's best for them and their family and their comfort level with that payment. So
of course,
just starting with that conversation is the best way to start.
Oh, yeah. Lenders love to lend you a lot of money.
Sure. Yeah. And that's what I'm in the business of doing, is lending. But we want to make sure we're doing it the right way, and that client's going to succeed to then continue to keep buying and, keep that home down the road. So,
yeah, shoot. I mean, I remember historically there was a place when the market was, you couldn't even talk to a realtor unless you talked to a lender first and you got pre-approved, because real estate agents were so busy. They're like, oh, you're not even pre-approved. Go talk to a lender. Then you can, then we'll spend some time with you. But until then, it's because so many people didn't qualify for houses. There's so many people that have bad credit. Or were in situations where they weren't going to be able to buy a home, but they still wanted to go house shopping. So,
And the biggest thing, you don't want to waste your own time.
Right.
I see a lot of clients, they get excited about that house, and then when we look at the numbers, they might be qualified for a little bit less of a home. So definitely having that financial education up front and learning what's out there is a better way to start before you even get in the car to go look at the home.
Especially right now, the prices of homes are astronomical in Vermont, Chittenden County area. The houses are just through the roof. So VA home loan is definitely a good program, good benefit, for qualified veterans. Well, thank you for coming on our podcast today. It's been it's a little hot in here.
It's a little warm day, but
I think we pushed out a lot of good information. We'll be airing this podcast in July. If people want to come and find our podcast, we put these on YouTube. We're going to be putting them on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, and our Facebook and Instagram is NGVT Family Programs. If you want to get on our Instagram and our Facebook, and that's where we like to post all of our benefits. So really getting this out to soldiers and the family members is what we're working on right now, making sure we can reach our information that we're talking about. So thank you for coming on the show. Let people know, And hopefully good luck to you over on your side of the field, selling those houses, getting those loans.
Yeah, thank you. Do what we can, and thank you for your service as well.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for coming on the show today. Yeah. Well, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much, and have a great day. For more information or support, please reach out to the Vermont Military Family Support Center's toll-free number, 888-607-8773. The preceding content does not constitute endorsement by the Department of the U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force, Vermont National Guard, or Vermont Military Family Programs of the organization's products and services contained therein. Further, the Vermont Military Family Programs assumes no responsibility for the consequences of using the products or services provided by the organizations or resources listed. Vermont Military Family Programs makes every effort to present our clients with reputable resources. We cannot guarantee the validity of said resources, and the use of such resources is voluntary.